Hey peeps, hope you're doing well. I'm going to do a couple of the examples to make sure that we're comfortable with it. Keep in mind we're quizzing on Friday. I'll give you more information as we get closer to Friday. All right, so let's do let's try number 2 real quick. We're going to factor by GCF if possible. So to factor number 2, I'm going to look at 4 and 12. What's the biggest number that can divide both of them? And that number is 4. So my GCF is equal to 4. Okay. Once I have my GCF equal to 4, I'm going to divide everything by 4. All right. The other thing I look for after I do the number is I want to see, do I have a do I have a variable that's in common in both monomials, in both terms? The answer is yes. I have a y here and a y here, so I'm going to take the smallest y, and that's going to be my GCF. So the smallest y is y1, and I'm going to divide that out. And now let's put our final answer. 4 divided by 4, that gives me 1. Y divided by y, that gives me 1 y left. 12, or positive 12, divided by 4, that gives me positive 3. And then y divided by y, these y's would cancel out. So this, my answer goes in parentheses, and then your GCF always gets written out in front, and my GCF is 4y. All right, so that's number 2. Let's skip down to number, let's try 11. So let's go a little faster. If you notice, I'm going to have a GCF of 3, possibly 3. But if you look, 3 cannot divide 5. So if you look at the numbers, there is no number GCF. Nothing can divide 5, 15, and 3. So GCF for numbers didn't work, but now we want to try GCF for the letters. Do they all have a common letter? And they all have a y. So we pick the lower powered y, which is y1. So my GCF is going to be y, and I'm going to divide by y all by itself. Okay, so we take our first term here, and 5y to the third divided by y, that gives me 5y to the second. And then the next term is 15y to the second, or negative 15y to the second divided by y, that gives me negative 15y. And then lastly, 3y divided by y, the y's cancel each other out, and you're left with positive 3. The answer goes in parentheses, and then my GCF goes out in front. Okay. Let's skip down to the next section. Use the zero product rule to solve the following factored forms. Remember, the zero product rule is very simple. Once it's in factored form, which if you look here, remember factor is a multiplication problem. So we have factored this. Every factor with a variable gets put equal to 0. So once we factor, put the factors with a variable equal to 0, and then solve. So it's very simple. There's one factor. This is another factor. We're going to put them each equal to 0. And then solve. That is the zero product rule. Okay, we're going to divide by 3 here. X equals 0. We're going to subtract 5 here. X equals negative 5. And those are your 2 answers. Let's jump down to, let's try number 17. We have, again, 2 factors. Here's my first factor. Here's my second factor. Put each factor equal to 0. So 3d minus 2 equal to 0. And then 2d plus 5 equal to 0. And then solve for the variable. So I'm going to add 2. 3d equals 2. And then divide by 3. D equals 2/3. Same over here, subtract 5. We have 2d equals to negative 5. Divide by 2. See you guys. And we have d equals to 5 over 2. All right, guys, let's try number 21. The directions here says solve the following by factoring. So we're going to try to factor. Remember, the only factoring method we know right now is GCF. Okay, so we're going to GCF, turn it into factored form, and then set it equal to 0 and solve. So the GCF for this guy here is going to be, number-wise, is going to be 3. So I know my GCF has to have a 3 in it. And then we also have x's in common here. So they both have x's. So I'm going to take an x out because it's the lower powered x. And now we divide. So if we divide 3 divided by 3, that's 1. X squared divided by x, that just leaves you with an x. Negative 12 divided by 3, that's negative 4. And then the x's here would cancel out. That goes in parentheses. My GCF was 3x. And this is an equation set equal to 0. And now we're going to set each factor. So we have one factor here, second factor here. And we're going to put them equal to 0 to solve. So 3x equals 0. And then x minus 4 equals 0. And if we solve, we have x equals 0. Sorry, there's a big old truck going through my street right now. So x equals 0 there, and then we're going to add 4 here. X equals 4. Okay, so we have solved by factoring. Remember, always got to make sure that set equal to 0 before you solve. For example, I know number 24 is not part of your homework, but I cannot factor this until I set it equal to 0, and we want the highest powered variable to stay positive. So I got to move the 9x over. So let's just do that to make sure we are comfortable. So I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. Sorry, subtract 9x from both sides, and this cancels out or turns into 0. And then we get 3x squared minus 9x. Remember, you can't add these two here. Okay, these two cannot be added because they're not like terms. All equal to 0, and then we would start the process of factoring again. All right, so if I factored, let's do this a little faster. It's really 3x, which is going to give me x minus 3 equal to 0. And now we can set each thing equal to 0. X here is equal to 0. And x here is going to equal to 3. Okay, hopefully this video clears up some stuff. Talk to you later.